since Jamaica's first positive COVID-19 case was announced on March 10 and the subsequent ban on public gatherings, all local sporting activities have grinded to a halt. The biggest high school sporting spectacle in the Western Hemisphere, the Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Athletics Championships, was the first major casualty, with its cancellation announced on March 12.
The consensus was that we would be better off cancelling champs this year. It was not a difficult decision to make because we really don't think that there is much of a choice in the matter. If we decided to go ahead with champs, it would have created too much of a risk, not just to our athletes and the patrons, but to the country as a whole. And so at this time, we think that the best decision that we could have taken is to cancel championship.
The Red Stripe Premier League was suspended with 4 rounds of games to go in the regular season. Other major casualties included the Jamaica International Invitational and the Racers Grand Prix, which have been postponed. Racing also took a hit. 2 meets were held without spectators, but the operations were eventually halted with an indefinite suspension on March 21. Several national representatives reacted to the plethora of postponements and cancellations.
In terms of earnings, I mean, obviously this is a big hit. There's not much, again, like you can do. We'd like to make money. Everybody would like to make some money, but I think people are going to even lose their jobs after this. So I think if there is, a positive side for me, I will still have a job at the end of this, provided there's still a professional tour, which I think will still happen. And I just have to focus and look towards that and just try and make my way through until that. Until that time, I can continue to work / train per se, on my own to some degree. But again, yeah, in the short term, it's definitely a hit.
Coaches and administrators also weighed in on the unprecedented scenario.
But it's a serious economic fallout. As a matter of fact, the fallout started from January, where a number of athletes were preparing themselves for the World Indoor Championships. They would have traveled, they would have attended meets trying to ascertain the qualifying standard. And the meet was cancelled. So all of that money in terms of them promoting themselves, trying to get the qualifying times, they would have lost that money. And now we're having a situation where a lot of the athletes, they try to earn some money off the Diamond League. And 3 Diamond League meets have been cancelled so far.
The economic fallout is going to be catastrophic. Athletes, especially those from the lower scale going up, will suffer significant financial damage. And by extension, coaches, managers, and organizers.
Action on the regional and international stages have also come to a standstill, with the biggest global postponement being that of the Tokyo Olympics, which has been rescheduled for next year.
Health comes first in light of everything that is happening. Sport is really secondary right now. And so, I was really looking forward to the Olympic Games. I mean, this would have been my first, 2016, didn't make the team because of a mishap that happened, so I was definitely looking forward, especially building on the success of last year and the previous season to go forward with this season. And so it's disappointing, but we turn our focus to 2021.
Really and truly, this is a wake-up call for athletes, and I think this is a life lesson because, we don't really appreciate the semi-permanence of this, of this being an athlete thing. And, we should have multiple streams of income just in case of times like this. So it's really sad to see the situation, but it is a world crisis and, we should definitely pull through this.
Depending on when normality is restored, national sporting associations, like other governing bodies around the globe, will have their work cut out to restore a sense of order in the sporting arena. Tonight, we get the feedback of local experts and stakeholders on the way forward. Our Sports and COVID-19 Town Hall begins now.
So there you have it, COVID-19 and sports. Good evening and welcome to our virtual sports town hall, the RJRGleaner group. I'm your host, Jordan Fort. Now, this evening, we're joined by some esteemed persons in the sporting industry to give us an idea of how sports has been affected and what they plan to do to get things back up and running once things remain or when things go back to normal. Let me introduce to you our guests on those starting on Zoom, on video call. Let me start with Sports Minister Olivia Grange. Good evening and welcome to our virtual sports town hall, Minister Grange.
Good evening. How are you all?
Good evening, Minister. Happy to see you.
We're
Hi,
good.
Minister.
That's the voice of Maurice Wilson, Jamaica's track and field head coach. Good evening to you as well as Carol Beckford, who is a public relations specialist, and Solomon Sharp, the chairman of Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited. And in studio, I'm joined by Marvin Anderson, who is a sports administrator and consultant, as well as the president of the Olympians Association, and Reggae Boys team manager, Roy Simpson. First, let me just get some opening remarks from all our guests. Let's start with those on Zoom. And again, let me start with Minister Olivia Grange. Minister Grange, just your opening remarks in terms of, so far, the effects of COVID-19 on sport, from your perspective.
Yes, well, my opening remarks will be quite brief. The impact of COVID-19 undeniably has been far-reaching, not just in Jamaica, but across the world. And it has impacted tremendously on our athletes and the various sporting disciplines. We have had to make some tough decisions. And I know it's really heartbreaking for some of our athletes. Those who have trained for the Olympics, and certainly we had announced the kind of support we had in place for them. And now we're going to have to review all those things. We've had to close our venues. We've had to put restrictions that have really curtailed the normal way of life. And so it has had a tremendous impact on all of us. And I know it would particularly impact in a very deep way on our athletes.
Yeah, we're going to delve deeper into all of that once we come back from the break and get the opening remarks from all our other panelists. Stay with us. This is our virtual sports town hall. We'll be right back after this. COVID-19 and sports. Competitions cancelled and postponed.
The Red Stripe Premier League has been suspended.
But what's the likely financial and economic impact?
A second race meet behind the closed doors, empty stands, no fans.
There are also a lot of other service providers that depend on the track for a living.
In terms of earnings, I mean, obviously this is a big hit.
Join us for a TVJ Sports Virtual Town Hall, Thursday, April 9, as we delve into these and other issues with some of the main stakeholders in the sporting industry. Send questions to 876-381-0072. That's our virtual sports town hall, Thursday, April 9, starting at 8:30 p.m. Live coverage on TVJ, TVJSN, OneSpotMedia.com, The Gleaner online, Power 106 FM, and on YouTube. COVID-19 and sports.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
COVID-19 tip. Protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during, and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty and after handling animals or animal waste. COVID.
Competitions cancelled and postponed.
The Red Stripe Premier League has been suspended.
But what's the likely financial and economic impact?
A second race meet behind the closed doors, empty stands, no fans.
There are also a lot of other service providers that depend on the track for a living.
In terms of earnings, I mean, obviously this is a big hit.
Join us for a TVJ Sports virtual town hall. COVID-19 and the sports. Welcome back to RJRGleaner Group's virtual sports town hall, where we're looking at the effects of COVID-19 and sports. And we were getting introductions, or we're introducing you to our panelists and getting their opening remarks. Let's go back to our guests joining us via Zoom. And let's first get some remarks from Jamaica track and field head coach Maurice Wilson.
Thank you very much, Jordan. Let me say that this is a watershed year for sports in general in Jamaica. We're in challenging times, but I could also say that we are up for exciting times. I've seen a lot of changes in the last 2 or 3 weeks that I think can assist the sport, and we must capitalize on those things. I want to say a big thank you to the Minister. Minister, the support we have been getting has been extremely helpful, and so far the support has not been cut as yet, so we're still happy and we're looking for the continuous support. But you know, it is going to be difficult for the athletes, but I think that they are prepared for what is to come. We have been having regular sessions with them. The coaches, as far as I know, are in touch with their charges, and they are doing the best to motivate them, to keep them in shape. So it's a challenging time for the world. And so we have to be prepared and take advantage of what is to come.
Carol Beckford also joins us via Zoom. Carol, your opening remarks?
Hi, thanks as usual for inviting me. What I think is happening is that this COVID-19 will affect us economically. And as Maurice said, it was a watershed year because of the Olympics. And a lot of other major sports are either in preparation for World Championships qualifiers and or international competitions. But locally, you know, this year would have had approximately 330 days in the year for active sports, which will include football, track and field, cricket, basketball, netball. And combined, they occupy up to 70% of the full schedule, in addition to all the road races and so on. So from that standpoint, I think that, you know, if you look at the spend per day, that would have some economic impact in terms of revenue and income. I mean, like in racing, and I know Solomon will tell you about it, is that 92 race days were scheduled for this year. And that is, of course, a massive blow, as only 20 race days had already gone. But I think it gives the athletes and their team an opportunity to be innovative with regards to content. And I'm sure we'll have the opportunity to talk about that a little more.
We certainly will. Solomon Sharp. He's the chairman of SVREL. Solomon?
Good night, everybody. Hi to the punters and the fans of Cayman House Park, far and wide. This has been tough. It's been tough on every sport. Whilst I'm a lover and the chairman of Cayman House Park, or SVREL, I'm a sports lover in general. And, you know, even watching TV now and watching all the reruns, it's kind of tough. I feel it for the horsemen, but not just the horsemen, the entire racing ecosystem has been hurt. We're talking about vendors, we're talking about people that work at the OTBs. So it's not just the horsemen that this has impacted. They'll feel the brunt of it. You know, the horses still have to be fed, the grooms have to be paid, all the different things have to be, you know, have to be carrying on. Just like the athletes, you know, be training and ready for when the authorities give us that go ahead to start racing again. So it's been tough, but this is like no other disaster that we've ever faced. You know, we've gotten over hurricanes, we've gotten over horse sicknesses and all of these kind of things, but you know, we have to hit a big reset button and be ready to fly out of the gate.
All right, Solomon, we'll, of course, get more information on all these issues, but let me just invite you, our viewers and our listeners, to send us your questions and feedback to 876-381-0072, or you can tweet us at Television Jam, that's at Television Jam, or you can send us a message on our Facebook page. Just search for Television Jamaica and send us a message there. Let me just introduce now our panelists who have joined me in studio. Let me start with Marvin Anderson.
All right, John, and thank you for having me here. And not to overstate what the other panelists have said, one of the more important features for the sporting industry going forward is that there will be sport after COVID. And as an industry, it's our best we interface and ensure that all the mechanisms are in place so that the transition to post-COVID will be as seamless for all the members and our in the sporting industry. So I think that's what will be important as I make my contribution to ensure that that transition is as seamless as possible as we connect all the dots in the sporting industry in Jamaica.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. And as Roy gives his opening remarks, Roy Simpson, team manager for the Reggae Boys, Marvin spoke about interfacing, and I know that's a large part of your job to keep track of the players. Just your opening remarks in terms of how COVID has, you know, maybe amplified that role even more, that you have to now keep in touch with players some more.
I think football is in an induced coma. They're shutting down our leagues, you know, they're shutting down our competitions, but that must happen based on COVID-19. I think what the others spoke about, the economic impact it is going to have. You know, you talk about revenues to clubs, especially if you look at even a match day situation where that economy is being affected because most of our, especially the local clubs, are embedded in those communities. But I think in every situation, you look at what the positives can be, and then, you know, we should use this time period and the opportunity to plan post-COVID.
Yeah. All right, we also got out and got the views of some of you, or viewers and listeners, in terms of the effects of COVID-19 and sports and how you look at it. Let's take a look at a Vox Pop that we have.
For the time we last, yeah, you need more time for the time we last. So that means like 4 times a week now. Yeah, man, even 4 times a week, because you will make up your time that we last, you know, because you know, racing fan, double race, like myself, yeah. Yeah, man.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Race on a Monday?
Yes, of course. I'm just doing it like American style because I can travel.
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday?
Yes. Or should I use the terms that I can exit out and said, okay, I wouldn't put Thursday. Most likely it's, wow, it would be Friday for me and Saturday.
Put some more days in it. Like you have a Tuesday, a Thursday, and a Saturday.
And Friday is cool, and Friday is normally a TGIF day, so I think people would love to have an option for Friday. That's a good idea. I mean, I've been to horse racing about 3 times in my life. It was pretty good. It was pretty dope. I like.
You know, sports fans are really the best. I think you could hear in the background there Spencer Darlington, who was doing the interview, saying Monday, racing on a Monday. But fans want to see sports played all the time. We're going to go back to our panelists who we have on Zoom. I want to start with the Minister, Olivia Grange, in terms of her perspective, because it was interesting. Coach Maurice Wilson mentioned something in his opening remarks about the support that the ministry is currently giving to the various athletes who were in preparation for the Olympic Games. Now, my understanding is that because of the postponement of the Olympic Games to next year, that support would have been put on hold. But the question I want to ask the minister this evening is, I saw a story recently come out with one of our Olympians, Shiloni Calvert-Powell, who was speaking about the fact that it's now financially very difficult for her with the postponement of various meets across the world because of COVID-19, because she's out of contract. What about athletes like those, and would any consideration be given to extending the money that was earmarked for those athletes who were preparing for the Olympic Games, considering that they might be hit by these hard financial times?
Well, we are in tough times, and it may even get worse before it gets better. So we have to face that reality. However, there are some things that we have done in the past that we will continue to do. For example, the sporting organizations will continue to get their monthly subvention through the Sports Development Foundation to assist with their administrative work. The funds that were committed to the athletes who were training for the Olympics, we have paid them for the month of March. We just have the athletes from the J3s who have not yet been disbursed their funds because we got the list a little late from the J3s and we had to verify a number of names on the list. But they will also get the funds committed for the month of March. Going forward, we are reviewing what we had proposed to do or what we had announced that we will do. And we're going to see how we can repurpose the funds without making those athletes feel that we don't care. We're going to make sure that something is done during this period leading up to us coming out of this COVID disease period. Now, we're looking at making one-off grants to certain athletes. We're also looking at the CARE program that has been announced by government, because within that program, there is scope to assist our athletes. There is scope to assist the creative sector and the entertainment sector. And within the creative and entertainment sector, sports is a part of that.
I want to bring in Carol Beckford here because, Carol, you know a lot about the business of sport and what athletes need to do not only on the field of play but off it to remain financially stable, so to speak. What would be some of the suggestions that you would make to make up for this shortfall that athletes must be facing because of COVID-19?
All right. For example, the Olympians who would have had a trajectory of the Diamond League to go through to do almost get points and earn some money. Because remember, they don't get paid at the Olympics. A lot of that cash would be performance-based. What I imagine that they could do, they could become innovative. I think a lot of people who have space at their respective homes can train and do little things and supply content. Because what has happened, people like Djokovic, the international stars, have been putting out stuff on social media platforms, and their numbers of followers have increased. Remember, most people are at home now. So there's hardly anything to do. And like as Minister indicated in the entertainment sector, all the DJs are coming out. So why not the athletes? You can, even the simple steps in your home, do weights. If you don't have the weights at home, because you shouldn't really be going out much, there are water bottles that you can use for arm curls. There are just some innovative ways that you can create content and you can win fans. And what that will do is lift things like subscription. So a lot of the performance-based money that they would have gotten because they would have been out competing can be negotiated. It's going to be difficult because a lot of the major economic centers have really closed or have slowed down business tremendously. So things like merchandise and, of course, TV rights, that would be where a significant portion of the money comes from. The athletes would be, the organizations would be hard pressed. One of the examples we probably should look at is where Wimbledon, having been cancelled for the first time in probably over a century, had a pandemic insurance, and they now have £141 million, I think, that will be used to offset some of their expenses.
Yeah.
And the business managers,
Carol,
could have, yes.
We want to get back into a lot more of that, but we must take a break right now. We come back with lots more discussion in our virtual sports town hall. Stay with us.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Thursday, April 9, as we delve into these and other issues with some of the main stakeholders in the sporting industry. Send questions to 876-381-0072. That's our virtual sports town hall. Thursday, April 9, starting at 8:30 p.m. Live coverage on TVJ, TVJSN, OneSpotMedia.com, The Gleaner online, Power 106 FM, and on YouTube. COVID-19 and sports. Competitions cancelled and postponed.
The Red Stripe Premier League has been suspended.
But what's the likely financial and economic impact?
A second race meet behind the closed doors, empty stands, no fans.
There are also a lot of other service providers that depend on the track for a living.
In terms of earnings, I mean, obviously this is a big hit.
Join us for a TVJ Sports virtual town hall Thursday, April 9, as we delve into these and other issues with some of the main stakeholders in the sporting industry. Send questions to 876-381-0072. That's our virtual sports town hall, Thursday, April 9, starting at 8:30 p.m. Live coverage on TVJ.
All right, welcome back to our virtual sports town hall. And there is one of the questions on the screen. We're going to get the feedback now from Chairman of Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited, Solomon Sharp, in terms of racing and returning to normalcy. So you'd have missed a few race days so far, Sir Sharp, and obviously you're going to miss quite a few more. What are the plans in terms of adjusting the racing calendar to fit as many of the important race days in? Because you'd have had some classics coming up as well. How do you plan to, dabble with the racing calendar to fit some more race days in to make up for the shortfall or the lost time?
So the team has already been in office. They've been working. They've already been planning to see, all of the race days that we've lost. How do we recover? I don't know. This is kind of weird, but later down in the year, we had some days that were iffy when we were seeking more race days. And I always told the team, said, hey, based on how everything is going later down in the year, we can apply to the JRC for extra race days. So like there's one race day on the 23rd of December, which is a Wednesday right before Christmas. We may have to activate days like that. So we've kept the track open. The horsemen are training. We have scaled down one exercise day and 2 days at the pool. We're trying to ensure that we don't spend off all the money so we can get a restart, when time comes. But the horses have been training and the horsemen have been ready. I've been told that the day we have the first set of races, we won't have enough starting gates for the horses. So remember now, this is work for these professionals, the trainers, the grooms, the jockeys. This is how they make their living. This is how they keep themselves occupied. This is how they keep themselves sane, It's tough for me that because I'm trying to abide by, the social protocols, I can't even get a chance to really go down and spend some time down at the track, just with the horses and all of that kind of thing. So in terms of the economics, we don't know when we'll get a start, but I think the horsemen are ready. We did our experiment before. We did races on Sundays. That went over well with our patrons. Last year we had a couple of Friday race days. That went over well with our patrons. Recently we had a equine flu, and we made a switch from Saturday to Wednesday. When we had to execute the first day without fans, we did it on a Tuesday. It was an economic disaster, but that was one for the horsemen. We had to show that we had the discipline. You know, everybody stayed away from the track. Unfortunately, the owners and all of these kind of things, nobody was able to come to the track, and it was a different vibe, but it happened. We've seen where only about 6 racetracks in North America are active. There's the Olympics of horse racing, the Kentucky Derby has been provisionally postponed, you know. So it's something that it's not unique to us right now. We don't know what's going to happen. We can just hope for the best. So far, the officials have been doing the government have been doing a good job in keeping us informed and trying to keep it down, you know. So let's hope after this exceptionally good weekend of, you know, everybody staying in and cooperating, we can get back to business as soon as possible. And I don't just mean that for us at Caymanas Park, you know, and the Caymanas Park ecosystem, but for everybody in Jamaica to get their normal lives back up, because it's been rough, it's been tough.
Yeah, I think there's a question that we're going to have for you now, Solomon. Is that a video question, or is it? Okay. All right, it's on social media. Just wait till that one comes up. So there it is for Mr. Sharp. What about the small owners who are in the sport and have to pay them bills same way? Those with 1 and 2 horses, is there anything put in place for those owners to pay their bills?
There's nothing that has been put in place for any owner. The small owner and the big owner, we're all in the same position. You know, luckily for Royal Ascot and Wimbledon, I don't know, something with the British, they had COVID type insurance. We're barely trying to pay our bills and keep things moving, and we're just about to turn the corner. We never had any kind of insurance to manage this impact. So the only thing I can say is that we're trying our best to get racing back in the quickest possible time. One of the biggest things, though, is that all of the sporting administrations, we have to take a revisit on how we manage our business. And so, you know, how can we manage a shock, any kind of shock going forward? You know, what if we get a hurricane to follow all of this? How do we withstand all of this? So I think Caymanas Park is not unique around the globe. I read Thoroughbred Times, all of these kind of things every day, all day. And there is a lot of pressure. Everybody's feeling the pressure. The big owners, the small owners, California, New York, everywhere.
Yeah. In terms of our guest in studio, Marvin, the athletes, and you're in a unique position. You're an athlete yourself. You're now an administrator, a consultant as well, and you're president of the Olympians Association. So you have the perspective from the athlete side, and know as an administrator, how do they bridge that gap? Because I know for this year, a number of athletes' contracts would be tied to this year. So at the end of the year, they'll be out of contract because this is an Olympic year. And based on their performance at the Olympics, you know, they would be looking forward to signing a new contract for next year. What do they do now that there is this period of uncertainty?
Well, I mean, for professional athletes, specifically track and field, it's a very unique situation. In fact, most of their earning would have come from competition. The elite of athletes do have endorsements and sponsorship deals. Those sponsorship deals, we're not privy to the language of those deals. So while there's a general thought that most contracts expire in an Olympic year, it is not true for every athlete. And there's creative way of how you do those contracts. No two contract will ever be the same. So in terms of those contracts, I will say to athletes that on an individual case, ensure that you go through your contract, ensure your team of managers, legal mind goes through your contract, and ensure that the language of your contract, you're able to walk that thin line and continue to be complete your obligation towards that contract, irrespective of the meets. In terms of competition for the athletes, there's nothing they can do. At the moment, the most they can do is to maintain some form of physical activity. And the unique thing about track and field is that, I think Coach Wilson said it many years ago, there's nothing you can do to replace actual running. The only way to train in track and field is to run. Nothing replaces running. And the fact that they're not able to do that in a safe environment really capsizes them for them to be competitive. And it's a unique situation. It's not going to be a quick fix, but I think all the minds in the industry are coming together of how best to protect these athletes. The sponsors, they have their legal team working around the clock to ensure that they proceed in a way that it's beneficial to them, but also there's a PR aspect to where they continue to cater for the needs of the athletes. So it's very unique. There isn't a quick fix. There isn't a correct answer. Yeah. But you just have to take it as it goes.
And I'm sure Roy Simpson will tell us that there's no replacement for playing football matches either. You can train all you want, but if you're not competitively playing football, that is also going to have an effect. How does the JFF try to ensure that players stay as much fit as they possibly can, or as at least physically fit as they possibly can? And how much do you keep tabs on the players, those home and those away?
What we're doing is that for the local cohort, what we're doing is setting up a training program which commences on Tuesday. So what we have is that the trainers will be sending out the respective programs to the players. What we're going to do is that every player will be called back at the end of the month. And what we're trying to do, based on the COVID protocols in terms of gatherings, what we're going to do is to bring them in sets of 8, 2 trainers, have them do some tests to see what amount of work they got in based on the programs that they got in. The players in our overseas teams, they're at a different level in the sense that they can be monitored by GPS. So their respective clubs gives them the programs. What they do is upload the information. And what we're trying to do is that when we get to start playing, what we'll do is that in terms of getting the data from our overseas players, match it with what we have locally, and then that comparison, we'll know exactly where we're at going into the World Cup qualifiers. But what we keep on doing locally, sending out programs, monitoring them by calling them, and then we bring them in for testing. And then for the overseas one, we share that data from the respective clubs.
Yeah. All right, we have one of our social media questions again. This one is going to be for the Sports Minister, Olivia Grange. It's going to come up on screen in a short while. Let me see if I can probably just get to one of them on my phone. My question is to Minister Grange. The JFF Women's League was completed on January 29. Can't the JFF advance the top 4 clubs some money so the females can be happy? That's the question to Minister Grange. I think that probably that question would be better asked to the JFF.
That's right. I can't say if
but Minister, since I have you here, okay, we have another one, I'm being told. All right, here we go. So presently the government finances only the national organizations. The funds does not reach the parish associations or the clubs, which are the entities that invest in the development of the players. What is the government and the minister doing about that?
Well, that has preoccupied my mind for quite some time, and I'm addressing the issue. It's early days for me to say, but I know that some attention needs to be given and some support at the parish level to the clubs or to the associations. And so that's a matter that I will be addressing in the future.
Yeah. All right, with that, we head into another break. When we come back, we get some more of the feedback from our panelists. This is our virtual sports town hall. Stay with us. We'll be back with lots more.
TVJSN, OneSpotMedia.com, The Gleaner online, Power 106 FM, and on YouTube. COVID-19 and sports. Competitions cancelled and postponed.
The Red Stripe Premier League has been suspended.
But what's the likely financial and economic impact?
A second race meet behind the closed doors, empty stands, no fans.
There are also a lot of other service providers that depend on the track for a living.
In terms of earnings, I mean, obviously this is a big hit.
Join us for a TVJ Sports virtual town hall Thursday, April 9, as we delve into these and other issues with some of the main stakeholders in the sporting industry. Send questions to 876-381-0072. That's our virtual sports town hall, Thursday, April 9, starting at 8:30 p.m. Live coverage on TVJ, TVJSN, OneSpotMedia.com, The Gleaner online, Power 106 FM, and on YouTube. COVID-19 and sports.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptoms. If you become ill, please visit your doctor or the nearest health center and share your travel history. The flu and coronavirus can kill. Let's protect each other. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Tip: protect yourself and others from getting sick by washing your hands after coughing or sneezing, when caring for the sick, before, during,
Well, this is something they also look towards ear to ear too, so I think they would have a little comfort hearing that, okay, we're going to continue this meet because it's something that you guys look for ear to ear. So I guess they will get a little comfort from it.
No, I feel like them to put on some late meets because you them kind of wash up, you know, because you them sit down and then lock in. So you have to put on some late meets for them up back again. Because them must have got tear them thing. They just put them up on the field, so them must have got tear. Same for the racers them too. You have to give them a little practice, make them go on back. For who come second, who come first, yeah, if you go back over and do them thing, the corona thing mash up the thing, so you have to just give them exposure, make them run back again, exercise, and go back in the field.
I was saying to myself this morning that if this was the time for Usain Bolt to be discovered, big up yourself, Usain, to the world, you wouldn't be discovered right now because everybody are locked down because of corona. We wouldn't discover you. But the thing is, we would still encourage you to continue training until we can find that event to showcase the next big thing. I don't know, Jamaica will last, so the whole owner will soon find out.
Basically, the COVID thing is going on now. Number keep on rising, right? So remember them say, no crowd. You get me? So based upon how the system set right now, the more crowd the thing they together, they don't know during that football season if more people get infected. So I think they should cancel it.
Oh, you cannot cancel the season. Because if you cancel the season, sports are kind of mash up. You cannot cancel the season. So you have to get back the football of them up back, like a 2 month or a 3 month, if you get them back up and just kick out the meat.
So if let them cancel it and everything, the player them should still get an incentive. based upon what's going on. Because remember, this is just a sudden breakout. You get me? So when the COVID thing has resumed, them can pick up back from there.
All right, so they were speaking about the question of whether track and field and football should, rework their calendars, maybe some late track meets towards the end of the season, and how best they can organize some football matches to help the track athletes and the footballers recover from the effects of COVID. So let me bring in Coach Maurice Wilson on the first suggestion in terms of track and field and the late season meets. I know this is still a mystery to everyone. None of us know when we'll return to normalcy. But Coach Wilson, how confident are you, or how optimistic are you that we'll be able to salvage some amount of a proper track and field calendar, whether it be local or international, towards the end of the year?
Well, as you know, when you have these kind of scenarios, you have a lot of pipe dreams. So it was initially it was a pipe dream of mine. Having analyzed what was happening and what is happening now, in my mind, I don't see us having any more meets for the rest of the year.
Wow.
A lot of the shoe companies their doors are closed. And they are the major sponsors of these meets. Most of their sale is now done online. When you think about the countries that facilitates most of the Diamond League meet, they are in Europe. When you look at Italy, Spain, Qatar, and all those other countries, there's no way they'll be in a position to facilitate any meet before, I would say, August.
Well, Coach, there were a few set for China, at least 3. China generally is starting to try to return to some amount of normalcy now. This might be a pipe dream, as you mentioned. Do you think that's a possibility that we could have the ones
It's going to be very difficult for that to happen. Let us also bear in mind that a lot of the athletes, their training has been disrupted. One of the things that is important in sport, is fair play. And that is why you have governing bodies that make sure that there's objectivity. So it would not be fair for some countries to be able to train. Some other countries, their athletes are not able to train. And then you host a meet and you expect parity. So, and this is from my personal perspective.
And what do you do because you're the head coach of Sprint Tech. What do you do from Europe? Are you still training your athletes?
Well, let me say that all my competitors in Jamaica have found creative ways to maintain what we call athletic shape. It is very important for many reasons. And the protocols of the government must be followed. But the government has made it clear that they don't expect, especially persons like who are who should know better, to facilitate certain gatherings. But
so in other words, that's a yes. You're finding creative ways to train your athletes.
Yes, we have to. We have to maintain athletic shape, and we have to be prepared, as I said initially in my opening remarks, of what is to come.
Coach,
next year is going to be a busy year, the year after, and the year after.
Right.
And so I think the athletes have been finding ways to maintain athletic form.
Right, because next year is the Olympic Games, of course, and then you'll have the Commonwealth and the World Championships taking place in 1 year, and you'll have the World Indoor as well. Marvin Anderson wants to chime in here. Is it something you heard on the Vox Pop or something Coach Wilson said? I don't know. But what's your perspective on salvaging any of this season?
Well, personally, my opinion, the two decisions that I've been following closely was, the postponement of the Olympics and what the IWF, the World Athletics did with the qualification period by pushing it back to December this year. So it tells me that the thinking that's happening, that the possibility of meets in the summer, as of today, the practicality of it, people that's in the knows understand that what it takes for meeting to go on at that level with what is happening. For meeting to take place in the summer, very unlikely. However, I could see another scenario where from a regional perspective where, say something like a Racers Grand Prix, if they wanted to do something, say on the back end of summer, where they could galvanize some type of support from the region, Caribbean athletes, Jamaican athletes in North America, that will be able to participate, and that would have been in a limited scale. But just remember that even and when that time comes when we turn the corner on COVID, that sports and sports priority won't be at the top.
Marvin, you're still an agent for some athletes, right?
Yes.
What are you telling them in terms of being in physical shape? Coach Wilson said that he's finding creative ways. What are you telling the athletes?
Well, the foremost thing I tell them to adhere to the government guidelines in their respective jurisdiction.
Yeah, but do you tell them to do home workouts, for example?
Well, I'm not a coach. I mean, coach will advise athletes, like Coach Wilson said, what to do or creative to get in their home, in their surrounding. But the general advice I do is their well-being, their health, to ensure that they are adhere to the government guidelines. And if they have that safe environment to where they can get creative, then you can encourage them to do whatever they want to do within that safe environment.
We have a question now for Roy Simpson from social media again, which is about to appear on screen. So as it relates to the fitness of the players, will the JFF schedule friendly internationals before World Cup qualifiers resume? Now, that's from Akeem. Now, let me just preface that, Roy, by saying we don't know when the World Cup qualifiers will be. They were slated for September and October this year. But in terms of that question, do you think it's likely that they'll be played as scheduled, as things stand now? And if so, how do you organize international friendlies in this environment?
It's going to be difficult because nobody knows when we'll get this thing under control. And then we play international friendlies based on the FIFA windows. The next FIFA window is June. So there's not much we could have been doing even if we didn't have the COVID on us. But I think we all have to just wait and see what happens when they get the pandemic under control. And it's from there, we can start do some planning. But it's difficult to say that we're going to plan because the teams that you also want to play against are also suffering the same kind of conditions and situations that we're going through. So it's really difficult to say where we can confirm international friendlies. Hopefully we can start playing, but then again it will be difficult because I think when we start playing again, the emphasis is going to be on the respective leagues to get them the completion of those leagues and then get into World Cup qualifiers. So it's really difficult, but hopefully we can get the pandemic under control.
Yeah, let me go back to the minister now. In terms of the government and the Minister of Finance has been announcing various stimulus packages for people worst affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Minister Grange, in terms of from a sporting standpoint, is there any consideration given to this in terms of a stimulus package for athletes worst affected by the COVID pandemic?
Well, the care package is very broad and it covers Jamaicans across all sectors. So what we have done, we have gone through the care package. We have had discussions with the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Finance technocrats, and we have identified areas in which the athletes can benefit. We're going to be having a town hall meeting, a digital town hall meeting with the various sporting organizations, as well as the individual organizations and membership of those organizations, to break out the package as to who can get compassionate grants and who can get other cash grants that are made available. In addition, we are repurposing our budget here at the ministry as well as in the Sports Development Foundation to see how we can give small grants to some of the athletes who are going to lose income because they're not able now to go out and compete. I'm very conscious of how difficult it is for them and that these are tough times. And so, I've made the commitment that I will find a way. In this ministry, we will find a way to give the support that is necessary to all our athletes across all disciplines. For example, the Premier League players, I know it's really, really, really tough for them because in the season, they're accustomed to getting a salary. And a lot of those players are from poor communities and they're normally unemployed. And so they're at the top of my list to give some consideration to happen by the FF.
Yeah.
And I'm giving some consideration to the requests that they have made. I've been written to by the chairman of the PLCA And I'm in discussion with him how we can assist.
Minister, let me just ask you this, because we've been focusing on players, support personnel, coaches, other support personnel, very crucial to the development and the quality of performances as well. How will they be taken into consideration in all this?
We're taking everybody into consideration at this time. It's tough times right across. And so we can't leave anyone out. And we will be addressing all those things. So we're going to be talking to everybody, and we're going to see how we can hold hands and how we can work together to come through these tough times together.
Okay. All right. With that, we go into another break on our RJRGleaner Sports virtual town hall. When we come back, we get some more views from our panelists. Stay with us.
Competitions cancelled and postponed.
The Red Stripe Premier League has been suspended.
But what's the likely financial and economic impact?
A second race meet behind the closed doors, empty stands, no fans.
There are also a lot of other service providers that depend on the track for a living.
In terms of earnings, I mean, obviously this is a big hit.
Join us for a TVJ Sports virtual town hall Thursday, April 9, as we delve into these and other issues with some of the main stakeholders in the sporting industry. Send questions to 876-381-0072. That's our virtual sports town hall, Thursday, April 9, starting at 8:30 p.m. Live coverage on TVJ, TVJSN, OneSpotMedia.com, The Gleaner online, Power 106 FM, and on YouTube. COVID-19 and sports. Competitions cancelled and postponed.
The Red Stripe Premier League has been suspended.
But what's the likely financial and economic impact?
A second race meet behind the closed doors, empty stands, no fans.
There are also a lot of other service providers that depend on the track for a living.
In terms of earnings, I mean, obviously this is a big hit.
Join us for a TVJ Sports virtual town hall Thursday, April 9, as we delve into these and other issues with some of the main stakeholders in the sporting industry. Send questions to 876-381-0072. That's our virtual sports town hall, Thursday, April 9, starting at 8:30 p.m. Live coverage on TVJ, TVJSN, OneSpotMedia.com, The Gleaner online, Power 106 FM, and on YouTube. COVID-19 and sports.
Reduce your risk of viral illnesses like the flu and coronavirus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Cover your nose and mouth when coughing with a tissue and dispose of it. Avoid close contact with anyone with a cold or flu-like symptom.
All right, welcome back now to our RJRGleaner Group virtual sports town hall, and we're getting feedback from some of the more esteemed persons in the sporting industry on how COVID-19 has been affecting the sporting industry and will likely continue to affect it. Now we want to look at some of the lessons that we can possibly learn from this. Carol, you already alluded to it in some of your opening remarks in terms of what Wimbledon did. I don't know if they had a crystal ball or something. It seems everybody else was blindsided by this sort of situation and had no plans in place. Wimbledon clearly wasn't caught off guard. They were paying insurance and now they're benefiting from it. How can the other sporting associations, let's zoom in on the local ones, learn from this, and what plans can they put in place so that this kind of situation doesn't affect them in this way in the future?
Well, the lesson from Wimbledon is that and Solomon would have dealt with it in to some extent with the various types of insurance. There is, because we're in a hurricane belt, there is certainly that you can look at. A pandemic one was a really stretch. And when I read what happens at Wimbledon as a history of doing several measures of insurance, I think based on the timeline, I don't know if we can say we're expecting something global at this stage, but they have several levels of insurance. But what I want to get back to the athletes though, the opportunity for them now, expose your brand, build content, do things that you wouldn't normally do because you'd have been out there competing. And it goes for footballers, netballers, basketballers. There are certain basic skills that you can do. Build a backboard at home, for example, if you're a basketballer or a netballer. There are so many different things. Look at your interests. Even cook. When you're cooking, record the video. Because what it does, one, it makes you human or more human. And what it does, it endears people to you. And so everybody is now exposing their breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But you don't have to go. I don't want it to, it's not a TV show, but it's an exposure of brand. Use your shoes, use your shirt. They're all branded. And so people become accustomed to seeing you. Marvin made reference to the contract. The manager and the agent, those two in particular, have a responsibility to guide you through. And there may be clauses in the fine prints that you didn't look at that could be dealt with during this time, what would be deemed a layoff. So I think there's an opportunity for all our athletes. And when I use athletes, I speak broadly of basketball, track and field, and everybody. Because I think, and Instagram, I can't say it anymore, right? Instagram is probably the best place because it is the thing for that kind of content. A tweet or a post on Facebook, yeah, we will go a far way. But Instagram is where you have a good amount of time. Speak to people, look at the other people who are doing it, and do a live every now and again. Just guide yourself through and occupy your time because that is what is really required.
All right, Solomon, let me get this to you because the classics should have started this weekend, this holiday weekend. How do you plan to try to fit that in? Because these are some very important race days.
Well, the classics will definitely be around this year. Again, we don't know. We're in a watch and see.
But Solomon, how can you say that if you're not even sure if there will be racing for the rest of the year?
Well, this is where now a little optimism comes into play. If I were to go to Caymanas Park and tell them that in my crystal ball there's no racing for the year, you're going to watch me on primetime news being carried all around Jamaica, being beaten. So racing is serious business for the horsemen, for the punters, for the entire ecosystem. The optimism is that, it happened in China, it ended in China. We learned a little bit more about it. Hopefully we can end it soon. And as soon as we can start to reset a schedule, it will take a workup similar to what Coach Wilson said. You don't just go to the Olympics, you go to the pre-games, the Diamond Leagues and all of these kind of things. Same thing would have happened for champs and every other sport. Football, they play practice games and all that kind of thing.
And we talk about returning to normal, but in my mind, I think there's going to be a new normal. You spoke about the number of OTBs that would have been affected, Solomon, because racing was one of the last to close their doors in terms of sports locally. But then there has to be a new operating principle within these OTBs and so on, doesn't there? Because even if there is racing for the rest of the year, and you're being optimistic, is that we likely still have the threat of COVID, and sanitization and social distancing measures will still have to come into play. How will those operate within the context of how crammed these OTBs can be?
So I did say at the start that everybody has to look at their model. We have to look at these sports as a business. We have already looked at our business. It's already a business. We have an embed platform. The reason why they can continue in North America is that 90% of their revenue comes from what is called advanced deposit wagering, which is a similar thing as embed. So, and you have various ones, you have the Stronach Group that have Express Bets, which is now renamed First Bets. you have TVG, you have Twin Spires, you have Naira in New York. So all of these things. So it's going to be tough because we're going to now look at our distribution centers, which is the OTBs, and be more aggressive with embed. And then they're going to say that we're disenfranchised them, because this is where they earn their living and their keep and all that kind of thing. But in order for the show to go on, we could run races. We're live on TV for a couple of days. People appreciated that, but the economics wasn't there. But most importantly was the safety, because people going to OTB, everybody wants to get excited and ride their horse to victory and all that kind of thing, and they want to watch it, and they want to see their bet, how it comes in. And I mean, if you ever watch a horseman, how he watches a replay is like it's the first time he was watching that race.
I've seen them, Solomon. But I have to cut you here. Let me bring Roy back in. In terms of the friendly matches that we had organized, there was supposed to be one against a Catalonia team in Catalonia, and there was another big international friendly, we're told, that was planned for June. Now, the estimated losses from not having these is supposed to be over $200,000 US. That's a major blow to the federation, I'm sure. In terms of trying to hastily arrange those in changing circumstances or in different circumstances, how much consideration is being given to that?
I think with the Catalonia game, we had already gotten the deposits. So we have some money.
And you don't have to give it back.
We don't have to give it back. That is a good thing. Importantly, with that one. The other one in June, we were still in negotiations. Nothing has happened with that yet. The option is still that we can do it, hopefully, if we get the pandemic under control. But it's just a wait-and-see thing. You can plan. And that's what's so difficult with this situation, the uncertainty of it. There's no real future planning. Sometimes you'll plan for example, we are looking, as Solomon says, optimistic that we'll get back into it, but probably by September you're here. Everything is shut down until next year.
I figure football may feel a bit more optimistic than even racing, because we spoke about the issue of the OTBs, Roy. But you have 22 players on the field, and however many else on the bench, plus team officials, referees, only essential personnel. How much consideration would be given to, even if you have international friendlies, to play them inside empty stadiums with only essential personnel there, if the government does say, yes, you can go ahead?
Well, that is better than not playing.
Yeah.
So
but you would still lose a lot of revenue.
Absolutely. But then again, probably you'll gain a lot more too from TV rights, because you'll have a bigger audience there. But it's real difficult because, again, the uncertainties, you just don't know when, how, and what should happen. But to start playing again, that would be great, because I think playing is better than not playing.
I have a question here now for the Minister again. Minister, someone is asking on social media, what about any athlete who currently lives overseas? I'm using the term athlete broadly, who would like to return home, but obviously there are stringent measures now in place by the government in terms of nationals returning to the island. Is it something that you would encourage in terms of a return home, or would you say stay put for right now and wait until this kind of blows over?
I would say stay put, and our borders are closed anyway, but it's best to stay put.
Yeah. In terms of, go ahead, Minister.
Via the internet and various platforms, just stay and let's communicate with your family at home, back home. It's best to stay put than try to travel at this time anyway.
Okay, and let me ask you this as well. By the way, there were plans in place to have the renovations for the National Stadium, the Trelawney Multipurpose Stadium, and some upgrade work done to the Montego Bay Sports Complex. Now, these are changing situations as we speak. Are those plans still in place, considering all that's happening with COVID-19?
Plans would still be in place. How we schedule those developments will be determined post-COVID, what the fallout is, the fact that we will have to repurpose our budget in order to assist with the human element, that we have to consider how we're going to treat with our athletes and the difficulties that they will have they're having now and they will have after COVID. So yes, infrastructure development will continue. It will still be on the agenda. We may have to reschedule a number of things. There may be some low-hanging fruits that we can still move on, but it's early days yet. The important thing right now is to stay safe.
Yeah.
Follow the protocol, tan your yard, and ensure that you wash your hands with soap and water. Just keep clean, keep your social distancing, and build your brand. Build your organization through virtual meetings and training. And just do the things that you can do that you normally would have neglected.
Yeah, Minister, let me ask you about this, because the renovation works may clash with some of the planned World Cup or the scheduled World Cup qualifiers and other sporting events at the National Stadium. How would you handle that? I mean, would you reschedule in light of that, or what would be the workaround?
Yeah, first thing is we have to consult. We have to get to the table with our stakeholders and talk things through and work out how we are going to work going forward. What are the and how best we can work together. You see, this is not a situation where any one individual can make a decision. This is a time when we all have to work together. We have to stand together and we have to work together. We have to consult and we have to, moving forward, move as a team.
Yeah. All right, we're looking at some... Go ahead, Minister.
That IPL, they're losing over $100 million during this period.
I was about to ask you about that. Would you consider, because for example, I have a question from Wendy Lee, who is one of the national swim coaches, talking about the swimmers, because we haven't spoken much about them. They can do land training as we speak, but nothing in the water. Would consideration be given to maybe opening up the National Aquatic Centre so they could train in the pool within the government guidelines, for example?
Well, that is something that we would have to consult on, because we have to be guided by the Ministry of Health. We can have limited training in maybe the Stadium East, and I'm not sure about the pool. We'd have to consult on that. But again, we have to ensure that we keep to the numbers that have been stated, and the social distancing and the various protocol for cleansing and so on. So I think what is important here is that we're always in consultation. Yeah. We're in consultation with various organizations, with our athletes, with the Ministry of Health, and that we follow the protocol that is established.
Thank you, Minister. Let's look now at some recommendations and possibly solutions. Let's start with Coach Maurice Wilson. In terms of what your recommendations would be, how do you suggest that we go forward now?
Well, for the interim, this is a time for deep reflection in relation to the athletes. There's life after sports, and there are a lot of online platforms in which athletes who did not fully certify themselves, and I can speak for GC Foster College, can use the period to further certify themselves.
When you say certify, what do you mean?
There are many athletes who would have been in institutions and would have started various different programs, and for some reason they have not completed those programs.
Okay, so
a lot of those programs have courses that are online now because of what is happening virtually. And I'm suggesting that this is a time in which they could make contact with their institution during this interim period and see how best they can deal with those situations to be certified. Because as I said, there is life after sport. And so it is important for them to have some form of skill and not only to focus on what they do from an athletic standpoint. And as the minister suggested, and Carol alluded to it, it's important that they continue to build their brand. When a shoe company pays you to wear their gear, it comes with something. And a lot of athletes have done extremely well, not based on what they make off the track, but what is not being done on the track. And this is a time. This is a time for additional research. This is a time for connecting with peers, etc. And so, in moving forward, one thing that they must understand, it is their responsibility to maintain athletic shape, especially if they are financed by a shoe company. And it is not only on the basis of running professionally, but recreationally also, and for their physical health. So they need to plan in that direction. And also, they need to look at the seasons to come. Because once we survive this period, which we know we will survive because we are resilient people, we have 4 years of intense competition.
Yeah.
Are they prepared psychologically and physically for that? This is time for true reflection.
Carol?
I just think it's an opportunity, and I know the minister and I were talking offline. It's a great opportunity for the statistical institutions, PIOJ, Statin, to work with the ministry to collect data on the true value of the industry. When we bundle it in with creative, entertainment, to say it contributes 3.5% of the GDP, I think the contact with all the sporting federations across the board will now give us an opportunity to find some real numbers. I think coming out of this once and for all, by the time we hit 2021 to 2022, we can have our own little line in the ESSJ, which speaks to numbers, how many professional athletes, how many recreational athletes, amateur, and so on. And I think it's an opportunity. Horse racing can delve deeper into its own. I know the budgets and so on. We can have discussions, even with your own station, Jordan, about structuring TV rights and sponsorship, because those are the major elements that are affected. I mean, when you look at even the big leagues across, Formula One is losing $5 billion just from TV rights, totally. And so it is, the research is so important for us, and that is something that we have missed out on. And the few of us, and I say us collectively, the few of us who collect data and do the research to make those contributions, I think it's an opportunity for us to gather our thoughts together. And we shouldn't end up at the end of 2020 without some solid data.
Yeah.
Just to reiterate the whole thing about content, and I think, and talk to your managers and agents.
Yeah. And Solomon?
Yes.
Yeah, your own input in terms of recommendations, possible solutions moving forward, because you must be thinking about that.
Yeah, so we have to revisit the model. As I said, we have to ramp up our online platform. We had already been in serious negotiations overseas. We barely missed a window because there are 2 tracks in not so densely populated states like Nebraska and Oklahoma that are kind of staying open because there's no other gambling or there's no other betting going on right now. We just about missed that window. We have signed up Naira. We are getting close to sign up some of the other big boys. There's a reluctance in Jamaica with the whole embed platform, the whole KYC. So we do have some, limitations in which, but we're gonna have a serious conversation with our punters and say, hey, we don't think that racing will ever be the same with fans and punters and OTBs and all of these kind of things, We have to have a serious conversation with our
Solomon,
regulator to get more OTBs.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Solomon, because the parent company SVL invested $300 million in 2018 and another $300 million was earmarked for 2019. Are you going to go back to SVL for any further funding to offset this shortfall?
Well, we're already in conversations talking about this. We were getting closer to, trying to figure out how we can be self-sustainable, And as I said, all sports have to revisit how we manage our business, We're all now looking to say, how can we get a bailout? But just like Wimbledon, they had that investment package, as you would call it now, in the insurance. How do we look at our investments? How do we start to put aside some of the purse for a rainy day? How do we get to restart it as quickly as possible this year, right? And get the show back on the road.
Yeah.
We have nobody else to go to but the parent company, and everybody else is going to the government. So is the government going to listen to our industry? We're only a $10 billion industry, but hey.
I don't think they have unlimited resources. Roy, let me come to you now in terms of recommendations and solutions.
I think everybody understands now what the value of sports is. I think what we need to do on the football side, I am glad. Initially, in my opening remarks, I say football is in an induced coma. I like the ideas from the minister. I think the government obviously is a lifeline. But I want everybody to understand that we need to respect respective products. It is what has been happening now, especially from an economic standpoint. I just want to reach out to example like the match day economy, persons, you're talking about the vendors, you're talking about respective communities where these teams are players. And I want to ask all players to continue working hard because you don't want when the COVID pipe is turned off that you're not ready for the schedule that we have ahead of us.
Yeah. Marvin?
Well, in terms of recommendation, when I think of our athletes, one of the notion that's in the public domain when we think of athletes, we think that because they represent the country, because you might have seen them participate in athletics, it means that they are professional. And I think coming out of this, what we can do, we can really draw the line between the professional athletes and athletes, because in the industry we have athletes that are trying to develop their skills, but they're not professional, they're not earning, but they're still committed to being successful in athletics. And if we're able to create that dimension between the professionals and the development, the athletes who do not earn, then we're able to put a structure in place that can feed our athletes, whether we put them in a situation where they can practice a dual career while they continue to strive and to be successful in athletics.
Yeah. In this little time we have left, I want to give the minister the last word. Carol Beckford mentioned the study to see just how much sports contributes to the Jamaican economy. Minister, I know there are plans in place to have that study done. How far advanced is that study?
Well, we have actually signed the agreement with the Commonwealth Secretariat, and we have had several meetings. They have come to Jamaica on several occasions, working with Statin and the PIOJ. And so we are far down the wicket in putting in place the necessary framework to ensure that we can gather data on the contribution of sport to national development and to the economy. And I'm really happy that that is being done. And we will soon be able to provide details to the public and to sporting organizations, because they will play a part in assisting us in gathering this data.
Thank you very much, Minister Grange, and thank you very much to all our panelists: Solomon Sharp, Chairman of SVREL, Carol Beckford, Public Relations Specialist. We have Roy Simpson and Marvin Anderson in studio. We also have Maurice Wilson, who joined us on Zoom as well. Thank you very much, and thank you very much to you, our viewers and our listeners, for tuning in and all the feedback you sent. This has been our TVJ Sports virtual town hall. Stay tuned to TVJ and pleasant viewing. Competitions cancelled and postponed.
The Red Stripe Premier League has been suspended.
But what's the likely financial and economic impact?
A second race meet behind the closed doors, empty stands, no fans.
There are also a lot of other service providers that depend on the track for a living.
In terms of earnings, I mean, obviously this is a big hit.
Join us for a TVJ Sports virtual town hall Thursday, April 9, as we delve into